So I'm making this video for two reasons. One, I want to see the change within my business and my shop over the next year. And two, I want to go over with you some layout things and some mistakes that I've made along the way. I started off in a 1.5 car garage, and within the last year, I've slowly moved into my new space. One thing I always hear anybody with a garage or a shop always say is, I wish I had more space. Obviously, we all wish we had as much space as humanly possible. However, that's not realistic. So my question to you is space the issue or is it layout? Here's what I do know. Those people that are saying, oh, if you have a 200 to 300 square foot shop, well, you can make anything, no big problem. Well, that's a load of BS. Can you? Absolutely, but it's not going to be fun. You are going to have to completely have a game plan for every little thing that you do in that space. For those of you that have a 200 to 400 or even less square foot shop, I applaud you. I have no idea how you can do that. Thankfully, I have a little bit more space than that now that this is my full-time job. In the new space, I have roughly 800 square foot. It's a 20 by 40-ish building. For this video, I'm going to go over where certain tools are, why I have them there, and maybe where I've upgraded from over the last 5 years. All right, let's start on the woodworking side first. And when I'm over here, this is probably where I spend most of my time. I am right in front of my assembly table. It's 4 foot by 8 foot, maybe a little bit bigger. And everything that I put together comes off of this table. Now, if you look behind me, I like to have all of my most used tools directly behind me. So all I have to do, turn, grab, bring it to me, and I don't have to waste time going to other locations. One of the first things I built back in the old shop was this drill station. I went a little bit bigger and beyond than some of the other entry-level ones. In both of these, we have screws or adapters. Anything that is drill related goes in here. Most of my screws are in these little tool bins. And those are the 6 main ones that I usually use. I've got a little one on the end here, and that's kind of a catch-all. Then up top, I have all of the chargers that I need into a surge protector so we don't start any fires. And then on the side here, I've 3D printed this drill bit storage, which actually is very, very handy. This was the original one I made. It does a great job too. If I rotate here, I have a compressor. This one is not a quiet compressor. If you can afford it, I definitely recommend doing that. My quiet one is actually hooked up to my laser. But it does the job. So I have it so I can blow off the table, blow off some of the lumber, or connect it to the pin nailer. So here's a pretty good start to a woodpecker wall. I do have some that are still at my garage at home. I can't really call it a shop anymore because I don't do any work there. But this is what I use a lot of. Now you might think, well, a lot of these do the same kind of thing. And technically you are correct. However, the more you get to use these, each different tool has something that it is very, very good at. So, I mean, can this indexable double square do the same thing as a saddle tee? Technically, yes, but sometimes the application needs to be a little bit different. And that is why I like to have as many of these as I can. Not only do they look cool, but they're actually functional. And it's an awesome company. One of the new additions for the new shop was the Bora wall rack. So you can get these on Amazon. I'll put a link down below. When you order one pack, it's going to come with 2 of these bars. I would recommend buying 2. That way you can get 4. Otherwise, you're going to run the risk of some bowing and whatnot. And actually, I probably need another set. That way I can extend one on each side or put some in the middle for some of my shorter lumber. Right beside me, in front of the assembly table here, I have my CT buggy, is what I like to call it. So being 6'5", I like it to be a little bit taller. So it's on its own wheels. It's got storage underneath, but this is the CT26. I was able to add this shower curtain rod here, and that kind of gets the hose up and away from me, which is nice. There are some downfalls to it, especially when you're using the track saw. I would like to upgrade and get maybe a longer hose. The ultimate goal is to get another dust extractor. It's really nice to keep one with just the sander, because that's probably what I use it for 60 to 70% of the time. It would be really nice to have a separate one for the track saw, the router, the jigsaw, other accessories. And now we're kind of in my shame corner. So directly behind me, I kind of have a catch-all area, which I've had in both shops, and I don't know how to prevent that. I like to burn or get rid of scraps, and I'm much better at it than when I started. However, some of this stuff will actually come in handy. One of the things that this shop lacks is I don't have very good storage options for sheet goods. I don't know how to make that better, but if you have a suggestion, I would gladly listen to it in the comments. Over here, we also have the miter station. So this is kind of the chop saw corner. This is the Hercules from Harbor Freight. Absolutely love it. I would love to have a Capex, don't get me wrong, but for the money, this saw has done phenomenal for the last 2.5 years. I did upgrade the blade. It is a woodpecker blade, and it's a monster, but this is the 12-inch dual bevel sliding, all those different things. One thing I really missed from my home shop was I had it kind of in a miter station. Mind you, it wasn't the greatest, but it served a purpose and it worked very well. I had the micro jig routed into the side tables, and I was able to put stop blocks for repeatability. Here, I don't have that yet. It's on the docket to actually make a miter station, and that way you don't see all the clutter underneath. It'll have plenty of room for storage for all this other stuff as well. Up above here, I have the track saw and the track saw accessories. That's just kind of up and out of the way. It is one tool that I use quite frequently, so I needed it pretty close to the assembly table. Moving along the line, I've got all my tools. This is the Sedgley that I'll put on my hip. I use it very, very often. And behind it, we've kind of got some hand tools, some spoke shaves, sanding accessories. But this is the Sys AZ cabinet that I built not that long ago. And it has 2 sustainers that I use most frequently. Like this has dominoes, that has screwdrivers and stuff like that. And in the center, I actually have my Forstner bit set, which is nice to have. And then there's some hardware and miscellaneous in the 2 cubbies. All my hand tools stay up here. And let's rotate down the wall. Now, in the other corner here, we have the new dust collector. I think it's been in here for a couple months now, and I absolutely love it. It's the Harvey G700. I don't know how else to say it. It has a lot of suck, and it is the good kind. I mean, it is awesome. It will pull the hair follicles out of your beard if you're not careful. It does a really good job. It's on wheels. I can move it. It's easy to get in and out. And it came with this little Y, so I've got one running to the table saw, which will actually go to the planer and joiner also, and then one directly over here behind me to the router table. Now, I will tell you, while I was templating, it has so much suction, I had to turn down how much I was getting because it was sucking the piece to the router table, and that makes it a little dangerous to run. So here I have all my sustainers just stacked. I will be adding a shelf that'll be fairly high up because I don't really use these unless I need to go to the job site, which those are super handy for. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be shop related or work related. I've thrown stuff in there on vacation. It was great to throw some of my recording and camera stuff while we went on vacation last month. Turned out great. This is one of the newer tools in the shop. This is a fully decked out router table from Woodpeckers. It's got the spin right in there, tons of power. I'm kind of a router junkie. I absolutely love routers. This is the 3rd different router table that I've had. The first one I built used a Black & Decker router that I got, actually my dad got from a garage sale. Thing works awesome. It's still in storage. The other one was a wing on my saw stop. Also worked really, really well. However, it was too big for this space. So I had to take that off, and actually it's in my dad's shop, which is 20 feet that way, which is also pretty nice. So behind me here is where I keep my guide rails. I have all Festool because I have a Festool track saw. You can get Makita, but there's a little bit of slop. You have to adjust the cams every time, and that's why I just decided I'm gonna connect the two as I need. So I have two 55-inch and I have one shorter. The 155 keeps the connectors in it at all times. That way, if I need to connect, super easy. I tighten 4 screws, we're good to go. Here are the Woodpecker parallel guides. And I actually use those a lot more than I anticipated when I first got them. I have the big table saw stop, 52-inch, but being able to take these to the material is very nice when you're in a shop by yourself. Now in the other corner here, we have the new dust collector. I think it's been in here for a couple months now, and I absolutely love it. It's the Harvey G700. I don't know how else to say it. It has a lot of suck, and it is the good kind. I mean, it is awesome. It will pull the hair follicles out of your beard if you're not careful. It does a really good job. It's on wheels. I can move it. It's easy to get in and out. And it came with this little Y. So I've got one running to the table saw, which will actually go to the planer and joiner also, and then one directly over here behind me to the router table. Now, I will tell you, while I was templating, it has so much suction, I had to turn down how much I was getting because it was sucking the piece to the router table, and that makes it a little dangerous to run. Okay, another new tool. It's been in here for a couple months now, but over this holiday season, I've really got a chance to use it, is the Harvey G700. This thing has a ton of suction, which for a dust collector is awesome. I have one run going to the table saw. It also goes to the joiner planer, and another one going to the router table. Now, I will say it has so much suction that I have to turn down the power when I'm running it on the router table because it sucks the material to the table of the router, which is not good. It gets a little, yeah. Which is great to know about the machine, and that you can dial it down, but you really don't want your piece stuck to the table as you're trying to put it through a giant spinning piece of metal that's really sharp. Behind me here, I have the original SysAZ area. Eventually, I would like to get more SysAZ drawers. I really do like that system. It's just hard to justify the price tag on those. Over here in this corner, I have the OF 1400 and the Carvex. Eventually, they will get moved over to that tool wall, so they're right behind me. Okay, so directly beside my table saw, I have the auto scale from Woodpeckers. This is a phenomenal tool. It is spot on. It's got the indents for all the different angles. It is great for repeatability. I end up building J Mouters from the Red Tool Shop plans for this, and I added a little bit of bouginess there. But I also have the spline jig. Is that a tool you need? No. Actually, it was sent to me so I could kind of do a review on it. That's why I have it. The cool part about this is you can run it on a router table also. So if you wanted to do dovetail splines, you can. It's really pretty cool. Check out the video on that Woodpeckers did. Over here, so what I'm showing you now used to be my tool wall because my assembly table was right here and table saw was over there. So one of the key points here is that it continues to change. I want to figure out my best flow. I have a lot of good ideas and how I like to work, but until you actually get the tools in the space, you don't really know. I don't think this is the end-all be-all for this shop, but I have everything pretty darn close to where I like. So right now, this is my glue rack here. I run almost exclusively Boss Dog. So we've got regular, the dark, which is good for walnut, clear, dries crystal clear, and now we have the CA glue with the activator, and there's Nick's banner. Links down below, you can get 5%, I believe, with my code. So down here beside my table saw, there is some miscellaneous stuff, but most of it has a purpose. So down here is where I keep my wrench set. It was one of the things that my dad suggested when I moved out of, or when I was done with college. He gifted me this. It's a Cobalt, has all the different sizes. I use it a lot more than you would think. And then over here I have a fridge, which the only reason the fridge is here is because this was the only outlet I had left in the shop. But it also kind of serves a nice purpose. Being as tall as I am, I don't like to bend all the way down, and it's a nice platform for all the add-ons for the table saw. So we've got the JESSM guides, which is super nice. They are a little pricey, but it came with my saw. And it is super handy to have if you're running larger sheets that you need help holding it down. It also pushes it towards the fence. These are great. And then I also have the brake for the dado stack. All right, and here is my table saw. So I have the 3 horsepower SawStop PCS. It is a beast of a machine. A lot of people say that the table saw is the heart of the shop, which I think that's personal preference, a little subjective. For me, I like the track saw a lot. I do a lot of my work at the assembly table with the tools that I'm bringing to the material. However, I will say the table saw is a great tool to have. I have a 52-inch, which is way too big, way too big. And that is one of my key points here is, here's my table saw. So I have the 3 horsepower SawStop PCS. It is a 52-inch, which is way too large. The only reason I have it is I found one heck of a deal on Marketplace, which is a good tip for you. If you are trying to put tools in a shop, look at Marketplace, especially for these better brands. SawStop, my Festool stuff, a lot of it came from people that have owned it before. I got a really good deal on it, and it still works very well. For example, I got this table saw, which also came with that router wing that I talked about earlier. It had a Porter cable, 3¼ horsepower. It had the fence. It had the dust collection underneath. This has the mobile base. It's got the overarm for dust collection on top. I also got a Harvey bandsaw. I got the OF 1400, a Festool detail sander, and the Nova floor drill press for what it would cost to buy one of these brand new. I got lucky, but I also drove 4 hours one way to get it. But the key here is look on Marketplace. There's nothing wrong with used tools, nothing. All that to say, that's the only reason I have a 52-inch. If I could go back, which I might even do this, try to sell this machine, even though it is phenomenal, and get a 36 or a 32. I just don't need that much room because it ends up being a horizontal space that I just throw junk. Oh, and instead of having an outfeed table, which is now my assembly table, I have just this little roller. It works really well, but get yourself an outfeed table. It's a lot safer. And the last couple things on the woodworking side of the shop, which kind of float in the middle, I have the DeWalt 735, great planer. It does the job. It's a little small at this point, but it does what I need it to. And over here, I have a 6-inch Grizzly jointer. It does a great job again for the smaller stuff. If I were to be running giant pieces of lumber through for tabletops and whatnot, it's a little small for that. For most of my tabletops, honestly, through my wood supplier, he glues them up for me. I pay a little extra. They're sanded to 120, good to go. Worth every penny if you're gonna make tabletops. He also has the lumber. I don't need to store the lumber. 2-for-1 deal. And here I have the 14-inch Harvey bandsaw Ambassador. It is a great bandsaw. I will say I just don't use bandsaws very often. So this is actually gonna go into my dad's shop, which will be his 3rd or 4th bandsaw. And if I ever need to, I'll go over there, and I primarily use it for resawing. Now that I have the Festool Carvex, I really enjoy using it for some of my curves and all that kind of stuff. And last, for the woodworking side of things, I have the Woodpecker's workstation here. It's got the 1-inch thick phenolic top, bench dogs, or bench holes for whatever you might need. And then I added this cabinet inside of here. There are some downfalls to it. One, it's a little too heavy for the wheels that I put on. If you're going to get one, I highly recommend getting the wheel kit, and that should prevent some of the bending that I've had here. Again, everything went well, I put on aftermarket wheels. And with the added weight of this 3/4 inch carcass, it makes it a little too heavy. But in here, we've got some drawers that I 3D printed some Gridfinity stuff and my double-sided tape. Down here, we have all my router bits. It stays nice in there. And then over here, I did have sustainers, which these are those 3D printed ones that I was telling you about. But I took those sustainers out and put them over by the workstation. Now we're on to the side of the shop that I spend most of the time. We've got 4 lasers over here, my desk, and a bunch of stuff happens on this side of the shop. So here's my desk. This is where I spend a ton of time just because of designing, answering client emails, making videos, all those kind of things. So this is kind of a makeshift desk currently. The top is actually out of the crate that the Monport came in. It serves its purpose, but I do have plans to eventually upgrade. I would like to get a desk that rises. That way I don't have to sit all the time, especially going from the computer kind of controls 3 of the 4 lasers. So being able to stand up and go over there instead of bending down, all that stuff. Behind it I have the Scatus from IKEA. It's aesthetically nice and it serves a purpose, which is storage. Here we have the X-Tool F1. I have grown to love this machine. The amount of detail that you can get from it is incredible. And it's nice because it has the air purifier, everything goes into there, and I don't have to vent it out the window, which is great. Beside me here I have the microphone. I use a Focusrite Scarlett. It does a great job, don't get me wrong. However, I would like to upgrade to the Shure mic. I don't remember which model, but just from the podcast that I've listened to, it is super crisp, and I would like to upgrade to that soon. I do run a MacBook Pro. I believe it's a 2022 model, which it does a great job. However, I would like to be able to unplug it, take it home, and use it at home for work stuff. Half the time I forget it here. It is only a mile from actually it's less than a mile from my actual house, so it's not a huge burden, but being able to keep that at home. I would like to have the new Mac Mini in here, and that would run 3 of the lasers, plus be able to do all the designing, editing, all that good stuff. But let's rotate the camera over here. This is the Monport 130 watt CO2 laser. It has a 55 by 35 inch working area, which it's great. It does a very, very good job. I'm still trying to dial it in as far as detail for engraving, but now that I have it hooked up to this compressor, it cuts like a dream. So if you were born in the 90s, this contraption here might look really familiar and make you excited, because typically this is what schools would use to put their TVs on. So if it was movie day, they'd wheel this thing in. Usually it had a squeaky wheel, and everybody would get excited because you got to watch a movie that day. I found it in a dumpster, of all places, and it kind of houses tape, wipes, finish, a bunch of different things. Small footprint, but it's able to store a lot of goods. A little bit of an eyesore, but I'm over it. And then above me here, I have one rack for flat stock that goes on the lasers. Directly to the left of my desk, I have the newest laser to the fleet here. We have the WeCreate 40 watt. The plan for this is, which I need to do a few videos for, is primarily to use the rotary tool on tumblers. I've done a couple so far, and it does a really, really good job. I'm hoping, as 2025 gets here, to really get into the apparel and merch side of things for the business. And then behind me, I have the very first laser that I ever had was the X-Tool D1 20 watt Pro. It is small, but it is mighty. I use this thing almost every single day for 6 to 8 hours a day. It cuts out every single one of my hat patches. And I've been lucky enough to make well over 1,000 hats within the last year, and I hope to triple that in 2025. But I built this enclosure, It's got 2 fans that will vent out the window. This is the only one that runs on its own computer. This is some Lenovo ThinkPad thing. I don't know, I don't like PCs, but it is nice to have it as an option, I suppose. Up above here we have hat storage, and down below more laser storage of just stuff. With hats being said, I use a lot of leatherette, and there's a ton of different colors. I mean, a ton. Especially in this last year, this market has exploded. So I built these 2 cubbies, which I really need like 2 more, and they house all of my leatherette, and now you can even get acrylic hat patches, and then it also stores some of my acrylic that go on the lasers for templates and ornaments and all those kind of things as well. But below here, we have hats. Above, we have hats. And there's hats on hats on hats. And right here is where all of the hats get pressed, cleaned, assembled, all that stuff. So the patch comes off the laser, hat storage underneath. I'm able to grab it, put it on the tables in front of me, and which are on wheels, which is super nice. It was a great addition that I added here. I added this bench also. Honestly, I wish it was larger, but it wouldn't fit in the space. So I have 2 heat presses. I don't even know the names of them. They are from Alibaba. They are phenomenal. You can change out the platens. It's got top and bottom heat. They do a really, really good job. And it has increased my speed tremendously. Over here, I have the flat press. That's what I use for beanies. This is by Vivor. I would like to upgrade it, as I would like to get into making some t-shirts in 2025. I like to watch things as I'm over here pressing. So I have my TV behind me. I did upgrade it with a sound bar in the shop. It's nice to be able to turn it up a little bit louder. It's got the subwoofer, all that good stuff. Oh, so this takes me back to my initial question. Is it size that is an issue, or is it layout? For me, I would not be able to function in a small shop. There's just no way. I don't like that. I would always feel cluttered. Layout is a huge thing. So if you only have a small shop, you can change the layout to meet your needs. What is the best way that I've found to maximize my layout? Well, unfortunately, you're gonna have to put in the grunt work and move things around, work with it for maybe a week or a project, whatever you need to do. And you're gonna figure out, okay, this works, this does not, and you're gonna continue to evolve. And that was my whole point for this video. I want to see not only how I evolve, I also want to see you evolve. So if you found any part of this video helpful, I'm glad. And if not, tell me I suck. And if not, tell me how much of an idiot I am.